I'm Liv, your chronically online host, and every day we talk about life, relationships, internet chaos, bad decisions, awkward moments, and all the things that spiral way faster than they should. So here's the headline. I took a BuzzFeed quiz, and then I lived the result for an entire weekend. 48 hours of full costume, text templates, and existential thrift store energy. You know how you click one quiz and suddenly you're looking at 9 more? That was me, doom scrolling, when a headline whispered, "Which archetypal new age coffee date are you?" I clicked, obviously. Result, the mysterious, affable introvert who has an opinion about kombucha, which I will admit reads like a very specific Etsy listing. And then I did the most adult thing possible. I decided to try it on. Not metaphorically, not just a vibe board. Full method weekend. Bio rewrites, wardrobe swaps, text templates, the whole performative circus. Totally consensual, low stakes, and yes, I told a few friends so it didn't become deception. Boundaries, people. Rule 1, and I said it like a wartime general, change every digital thing that could betray you. Bio, rewritten. Dating apps, rewritten. Pinned tweets, also rewritten. I made my profile read like a poorly edited indie film synopsis, collects records, offers unsolicited book recs, judges your espresso order with love. Gross? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely not. Rule 2. Clothes. I swapped my usual jeans for everything thing for a skirt that looks like a sad, fashionable quilt and 3 scarves that could double as emergency blankets. I accessorized like someone who thinks they might end up on the cover of a used poetry collection. I also found a necklace in a thrift store that smelled faintly of other people's destiny and maybe detergent. It was a vibe, and it smelled like thrift store hope. Rule 3. Prepare templates. You want your aura to be curated, even when you're lazy. So I made a folder of texts. Flirty, aloof, accidentally deep. Example of the accidentally deep file, and I will read this because you deserve it. I like keeping things small and meaningful, like my plant collection and weekend rituals. Read that out loud in your head. Is it poetry or passive aggression? Yes. Tell me you've done this without telling me. Anyone? No? Okay, moving on. The trouble with templates is how convincing they feel until they land on a real human. Because theory is chic, practice is a gif of you over-explaining kombucha origins at brunch.
So, Saturday, I stroll into my local coffee place like I own a small, tastefully curated mystery. I order, and here's where I flex my theater, a kombucha spritzed oat latte. I said it with such conviction, the barista blinked like a judge and wrote something that looked like a conspiracy on the cup. The date shows up in a cardigan that looked like it used to cry softly at poetry. We talk plants for 5 minutes, then he asks if I meditate. I go full persona. I mostly journal my contradictions. He nods like he's been accepted into some secret club. I did not correct him. It felt very performative and also weirdly fun. Brunch at work later? Epic overcommitment. I introduced myself as quietly opinionated, which sounds like a personality and is also a danger to conversations. Someone asked about weekend plans and I said, I'm collecting small moments. My coworker asked, like yard sales? And I said, only the ones with narrative potential. She stared and then laughed nervously. Don't worry, I apologize later. Responsible chaos, people. Okay, small comic beat. I bought a notebook purely for the vibe and then actually wrote 1 page of nonsense. Felt ridiculous, felt good, felt like a human taking up 2 perfectly thrifted seats on a bus. Tiny win. Now the disaster. I had a message queued in the if they text at 2 a.m. folder. Yes, I made a file for feelings, and it was labeled for theatrical effect. I meant to send something normal to an old friend. Instead, through the fog of poor decisions and dramatic timing, I hit send on the queued poetic gem. I keep them small and meaningful, like my rituals. They teach me to feel radically ordinary. And then the blue dot.
the universe's most judgmental punctuation. He replied with a long text about vulnerability, regret, and also an invitation to talk properly. I panicked and did the most dramatic thing I could, sent a whispering voice note describing moonlight and small jars. 2 seconds in, I heard my neighbor practicing bagpipes. Bagpipes and breathy confessions do not mix. I wanted to crawl into the fern I bought for vibes. It unfolded into a surreal play. My performative text, his earnest response, my bagpipe-accompanied voice note, followed by a cascade of brunch gifts from a coworker who had somehow been CC'd in the emotional invite. When you stage a persona, sometimes the props stage you back. Lesson learned in live time. Hot take: personality quizzes are comforting laziness. They feel like a shortcut to identity. Pick your color, pick your archetype, and suddenly your decisions have a suggestive URL backing them. It's cheap emotional wine, warm in the moment and regretful the next morning. They help you avoid the messy, actual work of deciding who you are. That said, not everything was a train wreck. Between the chaos, I made a friend at a plant shop who recommended a fern for dramatic lighting, and I actually stuck to a boundary. No texts after 10 p.m. unless it's important. That boundary came from the persona and somehow ended up being useful in real life. So praiseworthy byproduct. Borrowed theatrics can accidentally teach you better habits. Also, small comic flex, I wrote a passive-aggressive but cute template and used it in the worst possible way. It went like this, live. I adore people who are quietly inconsistent. It keeps life spicy and my plant safe. Read that and tell me it doesn't scream. I read maybe one self-help chapter. Accountability moment. Monday morning, I cleaned up the confetti. I texted the ex a real apology and explained the weekend experiment, so he didn't think my voice note was an invitation to unpack our history. I also apologized to the coworker for weaponizing quietly opinionated and for the gift barrage. Playful experiments are fine, as long as you tidy up the chaos you make. So, what should you do if you're tempted to try this? Smaller costume first. Maybe a new coffee order that actually exists. Tell one person what's going on, so you don't accidentally create an emotional emergency. And if a persona gives you better boundaries, keep those parts. Just be honest with the humans involved and don't weaponize mystique. At the end of 48 hours, I had an awkward voicemail, a new plant friend, a thrifted necklace that photographs dramatically, and one text thread that will probably become a whole other episode. Bad choices make the best material. I left a little embarrassed, a little delighted, and definitely ready to never buy a kombucha-spritzed oat latte again. If this episode made you laugh or made you feel slightly better about your own chaotic weekend choices, then my job here is officially done. If you have a cheap experiment disaster, the fake resume stunt, the ghosting experiment, or the time you lived as your astrology sign for a week, please leave a review and tell me the story. I read them all, I judge them lovingly, and the best ones might show up on the show. All right, stay chaotic.